domain. So it's going to look for third levels. It would not discover this gridlogic.energy.tesla.com without a little bit of finagling and looking through the help to figure out how to do that. So we can come to a site like crt.sh to see if we could find any additional subdomains within this, and we can utilize tools like sublister as well. So I'm going to let this finish, but in the next video what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you how to improve upon this process with some tools that have been written in Go that I think are fantastic. So I'm going to let this run. We're going to have part 2 of this video where we actually review the results, and then we'll go from there. So I will see you over in the next video. Okay, so we have our results back. In part 1, we went pretty quick. Part 2, I want to talk about the results, what might be interesting here, and then identify some other tools that you can download and use and go play with on your own. So this has identified quite a few things. I mean, there's a big list here, 87 subdomains. And I lied to you when I said that it didn't get fourth levels. I thought there used to be a recursive feature where you'd have to do a -R to get those. Now you don't have to do that. It just picks up fourth levels for you. Now, Sublister is great at finding some of these things. Like if we come through here, there is a dev.tesla.com, and I saw down towards the end that there was some staging 2 here, a dev here, a test. These all look juicy. SSO-dev looks juicy. I might be after something like QA as well, or something like vpn.tesla.com. I want to know where your mail is at. So here's webmail, xmail, anything here. You could also look through these lists and possibly identify what kind of tools they're using. You might see something like link.tesla.com or zoom.tesla.com. And this really just kind of drives home what they're running on their back end for a lot of things. Now, this isn't the all-inclusive. Sublister is a great tool. Sublister was ahead of its time when it came out, but there are better tools out there. There are tools that incorporate pretty much everything in one go. So you might have cert.sh like this, you might have Sublister included, and the one tool that is really popular, if you go out to Google, type in OWASP AMAS, and this is the go-to tool for a lot of people doing bug bounty hunting. So if we click on the AMAS project here in GitHub, you can download the project and install it per the installation instructions here. So you have an installation guide down in the documentation. The reason I have chosen not to show it in this series is because actually running AMAS takes a long time. But you can configure AMAS to do a lot of things and find a lot more subdomains. So my challenge to you is to get AMAS installed, and on top of that, see how many more subdomains than 87 can you find when you actually run it. So another last thing to point out is if you want to use Sublister and you used it, it was really, really slow, it's always helpful to check the -H on the help. And you can see in here that there is a -T for threads. Always check the help. So we can specify a domain like we did before, do something like -D of tesla.com, and then you can specify threads of like 100 as opposed to maybe 1 thread or 10 threads that was running originally. We give it 100 threads, it's going to go a lot faster, we're going to get a lot more results. You could also do a -V for verbosity here and get your results in real time if you're impatient or you're trying to go out to the web. So there are great tools out there for doing subdomain hunting. And again, subdomain hunting is very, very critical because if we just limited ourselves to tesla.com, look at all the things that we would miss. So we can find out a lot here. Now, not all of these pages are going to be alive also. There's a good possibility that we can go to something like this mfa.dev or -dev.tesla.com and then it won't work. We can give it a go and see. Like, not always do these work. These are what show up in search engines, but it's worth knowing about them. And there are other tools out there, such as like, go to Google, such as Tom Nom Nom's HTTP PHP probe like this. Tools like that out there that will probe a list that you give it. You can give it this list into the probe. It'll say, hey, this website's alive or this website's not alive. And then you can start narrowing down these lists as well. So that is something to think about when you get your wheels spinning. But for now, for information gathering and for the scope of this course, we don't have to worry about it too much. But I do want to point out some other alternatives and ways to do subdomain hunting and then what to look for in subdomain hunting. So that is it for this video. I'm going to catch you over in the next one. Now the next few videos have to deal with web apps as well. But instead of looking at subdomains, we're going to look at what a website is built with. And that's a good indicator here of built with. So let's go out to Google and we're going to just search built with. And we're going to go right to builtwith.com. And let's take a look at what this does. So let's just search tesla.com, for example. We'll do a lookup. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can read it. And what this does is this goes out and it looks at what type of tech Tesla's running. Now it gives all this stuff that it can see, Google Analytics, Salesforce, that's great, but it also tells us the widgets that are running. You can see it is part of BugCrowd, LogMeIn, Twitter. Okay, it's got these language things here, but what we're really after is what kind of frameworks it might be running on. So it says here that it's running on PHP. It has Adobe Enterprise Cloud. Okay, that's interesting. It's got CDN, the Content Delivery Network. Interesting. It utilizes Stripe. Okay, we can scroll through this. Looks like it might be written in Drupal. That's an indicator there. And this is a big website, so it's got a lot. Look at all the information here. And it might be a lot to track down. So with this, with a big website like this, there's a better way, I think. Now, Built With is a great resource, but I think there's some other stuff out there that might help us a little bit better. So let's go out to Google as well, and let's search for a tool called Wapalyzer, just like this, and we're gonna use it for Firefox. So it should pull this up here, and we'll click on the first one. And go ahead and just select Add to Firefox. Select Add, and now it will appear. So now we have Wapalyzer. Let's go back to Tesla. And you see this little guy here in the corner. We're gonna click on this. We're gonna accept it. And now we get a little bit of information as to what's going on. Not as much information as Built With, but I actually like Wapalyzer a lot more because it kind of just gives you an indication right away with what's going on. Now, Wapalyzer is more of an active type of reconnaissance. I only say that, and I don't necessarily believe it, but it's because we do have to interact with the website. Now, we're not doing any type of scanning. We're just going out to the website like a normal user would. And to me, it's still kind of passive because we're not doing anything that would be out of the norm. So here we can see the content management system is running on Drupal. We can see the programming language is running PHP. Those are both identified with Built With as well. Now, why is this important, you're telling me? Well, it's important because if we know that it's running with PHP or Drupal, there might be a vulnerability within those. A lot of times when we have this, let's see if we go to this website, you can see PHP is running, we get a lot of things, and we get version numbers. So look at the Wapalyzer website. You see that it's running on an operating system of Ubuntu. It's got a programming language of PHP. The web server is Nginx with 1.14.0 version number. Okay, it can tell that it's running on Amazon Web Services as a platform. It's got all kinds of information here. It's got the payment processing. It's running Google Analytics. So see the type of information that can come through. A lot of times you'll see things like jQuery and other type of libraries here, and the version numbers as well. Now you take those version numbers and you do enumeration on them and you try to find any type of vulnerabilities that might happen there. And the more information that we can gather on a client, on a website, whatever it is, the better off we are. So when we're gathering information on Tesla, okay, now we know the content management system is written in Drupal, the programming language PHP. Is that going to lead to an exploit? Maybe, but you don't know where it's going to come up in the future. So this type of information gathering is great. Now, one more thing that we can use. We've got something built into our machine. Let's go out to the terminal and we can take a look at it. So we've got a tool called whatweb, just like this, and hit enter on it. And if we look at the syntax, all we need is to specify a target. So we enter the URL, host name, IP address, or nmap format. So we just say whatweb URL. So let's give it a go. We'll say whatweb, and we'll just say https tesla.com. And it is a redirect, so it might not pull down everything for us here. So it did pull down an IP address. It gave us a redirect. I don't know if there is a follow redirection option here. But what we'll do is we will just say something instead. We'll say like tesla.com instead of 443 and see if that does anything different. And it didn't. So it does give us some information in here. It's not as pretty of a layout, but it is a tool that is built into Kali Linux for us. So look, we can pull down Drupal 8. We didn't know what kind of Drupal it was running on. Now we know it's Drupal 8. We see that it's running PHP 7.3.7. That's identification too that we didn't have previously. So using more tools to our advantage gives us more information. And we can pull down the headers that it has here, and you see they have different types of headers, which we're not going to get into this quite yet. When we get into the web app portion of this, we'll talk more about headers. But this is just yet another thing that we need to look at, and we pull down an IP address as well. So a little bit more information that we can gather here and just keep going from this. So that is it. Utilize the resources around you to gather information. We could utilize resources that go out and scan a specific web page like this. We can go and utilize a resource such as Wappalizer that you just visit the web page and you can see what's running on there, or a website like builtwith.com where we just don't even navigate to the website. We just type it in and it does all the work for us. And we can pull down all this information, which is by far the most information out of these three tools. So utilize all the resources available to you, and you will have much advantages when it comes to pen testing and your enumeration skills. So that's it for this video. I'll catch you over in the next one. Another useful tool when it comes to web applications is a tool called Burp Suite. Now, let's go ahead and open up Burp Suite. So we're going to go up to the applications, and in your favorite should exist Burp Suite here. Now, Burp Suite is what we call a web proxy. Now, a web proxy means that it has the capability of intercepting traffic for us, and we're going to see what that looks like. So you're probably going to get this error about this JRE. Don't worry about it. We're just going to say OK. You might get you need to accept this license agreement when you first start. Go ahead and accept that as well. And if you see an update screen, go ahead and just close. So we are on the community edition, so we will have limited features. We'll talk more about those when we get to the web application section, but I just want to introduce you to what Burp Suite can do in a very basic form and how we can actually gather some information out of a website from Burp Suite pretty easily. So let's go ahead and just select temporary project and click next, and then select start burp. Now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up our Firefox for utilizing Burp Suite. So go ahead and go to favorites in Firefox. And I want you to go over to the right hand little hamburger here, and you're going to go and select preferences. From preferences, we're going to scroll down all the way to the bottom, and we're going to select settings. Now we're going to select this manual proxy configuration here, and we're going to say 127.0.0.1 on port 8080. Later when we get to the web application section, I'll show you a much easier way of doing this with a tool called Foxy Proxy, but for right now this is a very high level overview. So go ahead and use this proxy server for all protocols. and that should fill in the rest down here. We're going to go ahead and hit OK. And we're going to leave this open. I'll show you why in a second. So I also want you to go to a new tab, and I want you to go to https://burp, like this. Now, your first page might not show up like this. It might show up with a "you need to accept this certificate." You're just going to say allow down at the bottom and say yes, permanently store this exception. And then you'll be brought to a screen somewhat like this. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and just click on CA certificate here and then save the file. Mine is already saved, as you can see in my downloads right here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go back into preferences once we have that saved. And we're going to go to privacy and security over on the left-hand side. We're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and there is a view certificates button down here. And then we're going to go ahead and just hit import. Your downloads folder should automatically be selected. If not, select downloads and then just select the cacert.der, hit open, and then it's already installed for me, but you will have two check boxes. Check both of those boxes and select OK, and then it should now be imported for you. So a couple things to note: Firefox sometimes changes things around. I'm recording this video in 2019. If you watch it at a later time, just be cognizant that in the General tab, usually towards the bottom is the network settings, and the privacy and security settings usually contain the certificates, so look around for those. Sometimes these move. So from here, let's go ahead and just see what we set up. So I want you to go ahead and try to go to a website. We can try to say tesla.com, and it is going to stall out. What is going on here? So if we go over here, we see this proxy tab is lit up in orange. We're going to go ahead and click on that. And you can see that it's gathering some data here. It's captured some stuff from Firefox. We've got more Firefox. We can just click forward through this if we want. And now we can see Tesla starting to load. And what we're doing is we're intercepting requests that Tesla is making out. This to me looks like a API request or a geo IP request. So this might be geolocation, looking for a city. So we're just clicking through. All we're doing is capturing all different kinds of traffic, and we can modify this traffic. Say we have this request here. You don't have to know what this is right now, but we've got this GET request. We can make this a POST request and forward that and see what happens. I'm just going to turn the intercept off. I'm going to show you what's going on here. So we can go over to the target, and you can see all the pages that have loaded in here. This is all the traffic that has been intercepted so far since we ran Tesla. So not only is Tesla running, but you can see that it pulls Google Analytics. It pulls this secured visit, which looks like tracking as well. It pulls DoubleClick, which looks like maybe ads. And then it has an API running here as well. So it's gathering all this traffic through, but we're going to dig into just Tesla here. And I just want to click on the first / and see if there's a response to our request. There isn't. Let's go ahead and just look at maybe let's see if we click into one of these, if we get a good response. We don't. Let's refresh one more time on the page, and you might even need to hit enter. Okay, and sometimes it doesn't come through right away, so let's go ahead and just click around. There we go. Do you see all the stuff coming through now? That's more like it. It wasn't picking everything up right away. So what we can do is we can look at some of the things that just came through. Like we just went to the Model 3 page. So let's go ahead and click on this Model 3 and see what it's got for us. So you can see that if we look at the request for this get Model 3, we made a get request to Model 3. And what's happened is we say, hey, I want to go out to this page, go ahead and take me there. And then we can view the response as well. Now in the response, we can get so much information. Look at this. We're seeing here that PHP 7.3.7 is running on the back end. We can see a bunch of information here as well, like Drupal 8 is running. We identified that earlier, but we're identifying it again. We could see a lot of other stuff. There's weird things here going on too, like there's a server name sitting in here. Typically on an assessment, this would actually be a finding, a low finding, but it's informational, as this is giving us information on possibly naming structure inside the network. But they also have their own Tesla type header here, so this is very unique for a client. But what the point of the matter is here is that we can intercept a basic request and response, and get a lot of information through Burp Suite. We're going to hit home on this really hard when it comes into the scanning and enumeration section and when we get into the web section as well. But for now, I just want you to take away that we've installed Burp Suite and we can go out to a website, and I still define this as not active scanning. There is a feature in Burp Suite that has active scanning that we could actually run, but that is a Burp Suite Pro. So it has a vulnerability scanner built in. You can see up here, upgrade to Burp Suite Professional, automatically find vulnerabilities. I have Burp Suite Pro. It's $400 a year. It is absolutely fantastic, worth the money. One of the few applications that I would recommend anybody buy. But for the course, I'm going to limit it to utilizing Community Edition. I will bring in Pro sometimes just to show you some features, but we're not going to worry about that. So long spiel short, I still feel that we are in step 1 here, even though we are accessing the website. We're not doing anything very actively with scanning. This is all very passive. We're using traffic like a normal user would. So you can see that we can intercept traffic and get a lot of information. Again, tools like Wapalizer, look, it pulls down the headers for us and it says, hey, it's running PHP 7.3.7. It's running Drupal 8. Where is it getting that from? Well, it's getting it from these responses. So it's pulling a lot of that down for us automatically, but there's a lot of things that we can do when we get into Burp Suite as well. So consider this just a mini introduction into the tool, and then we'll touch back on it over and over again as we go. So this is it for this video. We're going to get into some Google foo in the next video and talk about social media as well. So I'll see you in the next one. Okay, now on to what is going to be your absolute best friend in your entire life and in your career. Google. Google, everybody. I cannot stress how important it is to be good at Googling. And you don't have to be amazing at it, but there are so many things that people approach me with that you can find on Google in a second. And if you've never seen the Let Me Google That For You, that's a lot of my life when it comes to the questions I get asked. And what makes a really good pen tester or a really good anything, especially in IT, is the ability to Google. So being able to look this stuff up on your own and being able to find your own resources and find solutions to your problems are going to make you a way better pen tester and just way better at your career with troubleshooting and everything else. So I'm done harping. I just wanted to stress how important I think Google is. So I'm going to show you today what's called a little bit of Google foo. So I'm already out on the interwebs. I'm out to Google, and here we've got Google up, but I want to show you that I just searched for Google search syntax, and the first one, Google search operators, came up. If you go look at this page, this is a really nice list of some things that you can run on Google and will help you out. I'm going to show you just a few things that we can use to search for and how we can start narrowing down some results. So if we go to Google and we just type in something like Tesla, that's going to bring up Tesla here. Okay, we found the main Tesla site, but we're going to get news articles and we're going to get all kinds of stuff. Okay, we get the Twitter, and maybe we want this. Maybe we do, but maybe we don't. Maybe we don't want all this mess. Maybe we only want items from Tesla. So we could just say something like site tesla.com, which we've discovered here. And notice I'm not putting in the www because that would limit us to that specific domain. So we have the wwws in here, but you could see that it's starting to pull in something like shop and other items, right? So we can search for tesla.com, and maybe we don't want tesla.com www. Maybe we take out, with this subtract here, maybe we just take out www. And we're going from 600, almost 700,000 results to 131,000 results. And you can see now we're pulling in IR, we're pulling in forms, and we're pulling in shop. And we're getting all these different unique subdomains. So I've showed you sublister, and I've showed you other ways to find subdomains, including the harvester, but you can find subdomains like this as well. And let's say you only want to find things like, IR, then we can just come in and we can say IR dot. Or maybe you don't want www and you don't want IR. You can take those both out and you start finding more, like partners.tesla. Shop again is coming up. So you can start finding different subdomains this way. Pretty good. A couple other things that we could look for. What about file type? We could say file type like this, and we could search for something like, I don't know, docx. Maybe there's a docx out there. And there's one docx. Okay, it's a survey, probably not useful to us. Maybe we can search for PDFs. With a company as big as Tesla, it's probably going to be a lot to search through, but there are 3,300 of these, almost 3,400 of these. So they've got different items here that we can look through. You know, maybe Excel, XS, Excel, right? Actually, that's SX. And you can see if there's any Excel and CSV. So what we're doing here, what's the point of me doing this? Well, the point of me doing this is me looking for potentially sensitive files out there or information. You would be surprised with a little bit of hunting on a domain. Now, granted here that Tesla is a big company, big domain, and it's going to be hard to find some of this information, but you would be very surprised with a little bit of prodding, a little bit of Google foo and narrowing down the type of results that you can get off of a company. I mean, we can find all kinds of interesting stuff. For an example, just the other day, I found a backup page of an entire website just by doing something like this. Entire website, credentials, source code, everything. And just through a little bit of Google foo. So again, Google is your absolute best friend. Before you ask anybody a question, no matter how complex, I challenge you to Google it first. Make sure you have done your research and then ask somebody. You know, it's just good to get in that habit, and this is what is going to make or break you, I believe, in your career. So please, please do not ignore the Google machine. It is out there to help you, and it will pay your salary over and over again. So that's it for this video. We've got one more video left in this series or this subset. We're going to talk about a little bit about social media and how we can target that. So I will catch you over in the next video. Okay, so you don't have to follow along in this video. I just kind of want you to start getting the wheels spinning and thinking about other items that we could be looking for when it comes to OSINT. Now, we could look on a website like LinkedIn or like Twitter and find useful information. Now, I was on this website for literally 1 minute. I've logged in, I went to Tesla, and I've already kind of found something, and I want to show you how fast this is. So you come in here and you go to Tesla, the company page here, and I love to click on images. There's always employee photos on images. Now you scroll down a little bit and you can see somebody has recently posted a picture of their internship at Tesla. And what we can do is click on the picture and look for things like badge photos or desk pictures or anything of the sorts. Now, good employees are told to hide their badges from pictures, and you can see they've done a pretty good job. But if you look down here, right down here, it's hard to zoom in, but there is 100% a badge there. Is this a great picture? No, but this is a good example of an easy way to find a badge is utilizing social media. And you can find a lot of stuff very, very, very quickly. So another thing to point out too is that Twitter is a gold mine for these kinds of things. I have found badge pictures, desk pictures, software, all kinds of stuff via Twitter and via LinkedIn. Now, from the non-physical perspective or information gathering perspective for what seems like physical assessments, the other thing to point out is that it's really good to find the people. Like LinkedIn's great. So we can come in here, we can find members, right? And these are all going to say LinkedIn members. I don't have this account is just kind of my peeping account that I just utilize when I want to look and not trigger anything weird when I'm looking at a company. Because if somebody sees me as a person looking at a company, they might say, why is this guy looking at my profile? So you might not get names if you don't have the premium on some of these. You might see LinkedIn member, but you can also dig some names. Like here's a name, here's a name, here's a name. And you take those names and you remember the formatting